All right, it's 10 o'clock. We will start in half a minute. Let me just get some things right first. Okay, 10 o'clock right on the dot, and we will start now. Welcome everyone to the Tuesday Talk Live. This is the 24th edition. Yeah, we've gone for more than a year right now. And as you all know, last week we launched our TTLX Summit. So that is a compilation of all our speakers coming in one place, and they're going to be speakers at this conference plus more. So I won't go into more detail on that. But those of you who are new, the TTL or Tuesday Talk Live is a platform for us to share and exchange ideas, information, solutions, especially during this time when we may not know everything that's happening around us. Yeah. And today the topic is quite close to my heart, and I think we'll go into a bit more detail there because this is the vaccination. You know, a lot of people are, including my parents, talking about why they shouldn't get vaccinated or why they're scared to get vaccinated. So we have the doctors in the house, and I will introduce them shortly, but just a few housekeeping notes. For those of you on Zoom, you can ask your question on the Q&A option at the bottom of the page. And for those of you on YouTube, watching on YouTube, you can also ask a question. There's the chat box, and just type your questions in there and we'll be able to pick it up along the way. So we're not going to keep it to the last. So just type your questions as and when it comes to you. And then as we chat, we're going to pick it up. My name is Mona Abdul Manap, and I will be your host for today. Yeah, so I had to brush up a bit on my biology and my science because I'm talking to two doctors. So I need to look a bit smarter than I actually am. And today we're going to be talking about COVID-19 vaccination. Why wait? So there's a lot of talk about conspiracy theories. And just yesterday, Dr. Jasmine was saying some people were talking about having magnets, put into you together with the vaccine. And then my dad himself was talking about this vaccine being the works of CIA or Zionists, things like that. So there's a lot of conspiracy theories, and how do we talk them out of it? Let's just put it that way. And there's a lot of WhatsApp warriors, so all these things that you read on WhatsApp, and these are what the information that the older generation, that's the only way that they can get all the information. And unfortunately, not all the information are accurate. Some of them are literally just fake news. So we've got two very knowledgeable speakers with us today, and you can ask them any question you want. Well, not exactly any question, but yeah, some of the questions we will answer. The first one is my good friend, Associate Professor Dr. Ashley Susay. He is an associate professor at the Department of Paraclinic Sciences, Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences at UNIMAS, University Malaysia Sarawak, here in Kuching. He has been a phase 1 coordinator for the medical program at FMHS for 8 years. He is also an active member of the Malaysian One Health University Network, which is part of the Southeast Asia One Health University Network, and has been involved in the COVID-19 laboratory testing since March 2020, since we were on lockdown. And he has also successfully taken and completed his vaccination earlier this year. So he'll be talking to us about his own experience, personal experience on this. Welcome to the show, Dr. Ashley. And the second speaker, we've got Dr. Jasmine E. Khairat, Senior Lecturer at the Institute of Biological Sciences, IBS, in Faculty of Science, University Malaya. And she is right now teaching advanced virology and microbiology courses. Current research interests include host pathogen interactions, virus surveillance, emerging infectious diseases, and antiviral studies involving respiratory virus, specifically influenza virus, to improve our knowledge in viral pathogenesis. I hope I pronounced that right, but I'm forgetting all my scientific words. So what her current studies or her current research interests are actually things that right now is happening to us, and she can explain to us a lot of some of your questions as well. She can answer. So get your questions all ready. Now, as usual, I'm just going to give both the speakers a bit of time to do a bit of introduction, and then we'll head right on to the discussion. And let us start with Dr. Ashley. Go ahead, Dr. Ashley. Yep.
Thank you very much, Mona. It certainly is a pleasure to be with you on this platform. I have to really thank you for giving me this opportunity to play my role so that the community gets an awareness created regarding this current pandemic and also the vaccination program. Other than that, I think you've already given me a very kind introduction. Thank you very much. I think then I let Dr. Jasmine talk a little bit now.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ashley. Dr. Jasmine, go ahead.
Hi, Mona. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me here. I feel privileged to be here, to be talking about our topic right now. And good to see you, Dr. Ashley. It's first time for us meeting. And also for everyone here joining us on a Tuesday morning. I hope that we can give you information for you to use, scientific backed information and facts for you to use to make your further decisions about this COVID pandemic that we are currently experiencing. And hopefully that whatever questions that you ask, that we can answer truthfully.
All right. Okay, that's it. Yep.
Yeah,
okay.
Back to you, Mona.
All right, no worries. Just checking if I've got everyone off the spotlight. Okay, now when we talk about vaccination, this is to improve your immune system, your body, right? So you can fight the virus better. But what is it actually? What is your immune system? What is it to us and for us layperson? So maybe Dr. Jasmine, you can start on this.
All right. So when we talk about immunity, so it refers to your body's ability to prevent infection by a pathogen or a microorganism. And these pathogens are foreign to the body, right? So it can be any microorganism, it can be viruses, it can be bacteria, it can be fungi. And we are exposed to it every day. So our body needs to fight this off, okay, foreign antigens, I would say. And there are different types of immunity that we have. We have innate immunity, we have passive immunity, and also we have acquired immunity. So there are three types of immunity. And the general immunity that everyone has is the innate immunity. So what it is that something that we are born with. So it includes the physical barrier that we have, like our skin, our body, and our hair. And this is a very like a blanket response when we are invaded, our body is invaded by a foreign antigen. Whereas for antibody, for passive antibody is what we get from our mom. Usually it's transferred through mother's breast milk or even through blood products when we have transfusions, blood transfusions from one person to another. But this antibody, this type of antibody is very temporary and it's not long lasting. The one that we want, the one that for adults that we really need is the acquired or adaptive immunity. So this is the type of immunity that is that have a memory attached to it, right? So and this memory happens that when our body is exposed to that antigen, okay, it produces specific antibodies or proteins against these pathogens. And then when we get reintroduced in the future, we can fight it off quite easily and quite fast. And this immunity, you can get it two ways. You can either get it when you are infected from an infected person, or when you infected when you're touching any infected objects or anything, or even from vaccination. So vaccination also produce adaptive or acquired immunity. Probably Dr. Ashley wants to add on into it from a medical point of view.
Shall I go on, Mona?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I guess Dr. Jasmine has given a very brief introduction to Immunology 101. And I think, shall I take it from a different angle, where let's assume that something is breaching our first line of defense, and this so-called foreign antigen has gone into our system, our body system. And what two very simple thing that can happen is that foreign particle, that foreign body can actually cause or manifest symptoms or disease. It can start off what we call in medical terminology as pathology. It can cause some harmful effect to the body. At the same time, like what Dr. Jasmine has already explained, our innate immune system will start or trying to detect that there's something foreign body in the system. Now, both these will have simultaneously will happen. And the pathology will be going on in one aspect, and the detection will also go on in one aspect. So how fast or how quickly you get detected, the foreign body can be detected. It depends on the body at the time, how is it functioning, and so on. Now, what immunity, what so-called vaccination do is that it prepares the body. It sort of like primes the body to get it prepared, and it gives an experience. Just to take a short history, I guess. Our human species, human species, the Homo sapiens, we have been on Earth. I mean, documented. This is documented about 10,000 or even more. More. So over those years, our body has evolved, and nature has given us this gift of this defense mechanism. So this mechanism, how it reacts to this foreign invading our body, and how it reacts, it depends on the status of that immune system. So both these things will happen simultaneously. So that would explain to you why some people, although after getting immunization, being vaccinated, they might still get whatever disease. But then what will happen is that the body will react much quicker, and it will try to stop the pathology from happening. So sometimes the pathology will happen, and it has gone to some extent that it will cause, and it shows the sign and symptoms more prominently in that person. So that can be used to explain why sometimes people do get the disease that they are getting at this moment. But if you look at data in whatever that we have done in the past, there are a lot of information showing that why vaccination is very useful and very important. Maybe those data I can share it later when we go through our talk. When the question arises, then we can add on and support why we should get vaccinated. I think my objective of agreeing to be on this talk show is that I really would like to create an awareness to everyone that the vaccination is very important, not only for yourself, but also for others. So the word "kita jaga kita" is a very important theme for this particular talk. Yep.
So in essence, is actually the vaccine is just introducing us to your enemy, sort of, so that you know what to prepare. So your body knows what to prepare. So when you meet them, and you will meet them, it's not saying that you will not get the virus. So some people have this misconception: after getting the vaccination, they won't get the virus, or they will not get infected. You can still, if you don't wear your mask, if you're still not careful, you can still get it, but you know how to react already. So I think that's what the vaccine does. In fact,
excellent summary, Mona. Excellent summary.
Yeah, just for the lay person. Okay, so we need a less scientific explanation for people. Okay, you talked about data, and I think this is the perfect time to bring it up, because there's the first question. Historically, vaccines are only safely developed after many years of research and testing. Understandably, the shorter the research time, the higher the risk. And I think at the moment, right now, that's the biggest worry for a lot of people, that we don't have enough time to test these vaccines and we don't know the risks involved, right? So with the emergency rollout that we are seeing right now, are there any studies, research or data collection on those vaccinated to look into potential long-term health impacts, which might show up years from now? That's one of the questions. Dr. Ashley, maybe you want to start on this first.
Yep, sure. When I said that I wanted to share that data is, we have two very good examples. It's before 1980 and after 1980, because there are some licenses that was given for vaccine production and vaccine manufacturing before 1980. Examples is that such as like measles, for example, polio is a very good example, rubella, smallpox. These are good examples of before 1980. Now, this has been a success story. If you want to do your own research, you can just put the success story of vaccine and you will get tons of information regarding this matter. So this thing has worked, and past 1980, there are some diseases which recently meaning back about 30-40 years ago, and people have obtained licenses and manufacturing rights to create the vaccine. And examples is a very good example is hepatitis A and hepatitis B. And what this has made is it has actually reduced about three important things. Number of cases has reduced. Hospitalization, that's very important now. Hospitalization due to that disease caused by those diseases are reduced, and also death caused because of, for example, smallpox or rubella or diphtheria or even polio, for example. So these are examples of things what vaccination can actually do. But then if you want to have data supporting that, what the effect for long term, I guess you probably can ask all the seniors who are still alive, who have got vaccinated, who have had vaccination when they were born and during their childhood time, that they have actually had vaccination, and the vaccination works, and it has prevented them from probably hospitalization or serious illness due to that disease. So that's my take on why vaccination is important.
It's just that I think a lot of people are worrying now that we don't have a lot of time with this COVID-19 vaccination. There's not enough time to test and look at the long-term effects. So I think that's why people are holding back, because they're like, okay, we don't know whether long-term you're going to get any other diseases down the line, or your, this blood clot things, or maybe you might not get it now right after the vaccine, but what if 2 years down the road I get one because of this vaccination? So I guess that's, are there any, data to actually show that this is actually relatively safe, considering the time, the emergency that we are facing right now?
Although the production of vaccine, the current vaccine, it is a very short period of time, but they have adhered to certain rules and regulation. They have gone through the trials, and they've even done the, before actually licensing it as a valid vaccine, they have actually done a trial with many people, meaning like thousands of people. They've actually done the trial, and they have got some kind of what they call a sort of a data to support that it has worked. So therefore, that's why they have. But then people, I don't want to brand these people as giving them name as anti-vaxxers and so on. These are people who are, for some reason, they are misinformed, and they don't have enough documentation to support that vaccination is good. So therefore, they are either, for some reason, they don't want to support this vaccination program. So I guess to put it simple, the data is there to support that the vaccination do work, and they have now done so many of the people in the world have been vaccinated. So that itself is an evidence that it's working. But whether what will happen in another 10-15 years, we can only do a retrospective view from what has happened in the past. So we cannot forecast that, oh, nothing will happen.
Yep.
But we can only support it with what we had experienced with the past vaccines.
Dr. Jasmine, did you want
that's
to add?
correct.
Yep.
Yeah, I wanted to interject as well. And it's I think people need to understand that once you get jabbed, they don't just leave you like that. They will follow you. There's a thing called post-vaccination surveillance, and they will follow and track you. I think once you get vaccinated, I think my Sejahtera will ask you if you experience any effects afterwards, and they will track you over time. And also, pharmaceutical companies are required to actually track their vaccines up to about 3 years. So we are going to get more data afterwards. And like Dr. Ashley said, retrospectively, then we can look at the impact of this vaccine as a whole and see how safe it is, how effective it is in protecting the mass population against the pandemic.
And I'm also myself worried about the vaccine initially, and I've been reading, and also I spoke to Dr. John, Dr. Ashley, and he mentioned, I thought this was quite interesting. He mentioned that it's slightly different with this vaccine because we've got a large pool of how do you say, people that you can actually work these vaccines on, because they've already, are either going to be infected or they are infected. So you could actually work on them because there's just so big of a pool of people that you can sort of test on. So in the past, when they develop vaccines, you don't have so many people with the disease for you to watch and observe. But right now you do. And that's why you can actually, so it's not a shortcut, but you actually make it slightly faster to see the results, the immediate results. Is that something that we can, rely on?
Said basically what in nature we would like to do observation. Whenever we do any experiment, we do want to have observation. I think this pandemic has given us an opportunity to actually observe those things that we want to. So in a way, yes, he will be right to suggest that idea. But I think the people who have created the vaccine have actually done their good background work, and they have already they are very sure that things will go as planned. But some things can go wrong. It's because of our genetic system. It is not a homogeneous system for everybody. We have got so many different among the whole of the Homo sapiens on this planet. So when you have this kind of differences, we will react differently to certain things. So that's when you get this odd things happening, and that can be explained in a scientific way, and that gives an opportunity for these people who have got less information about this kind of things to make it into an issue. So that's my take on those that matter.
Yeah, I think Mona, you're right, and Dr. John is quite right. It's one of the factors that actually pushed the vaccine production quite fast, and because we are in the middle of pandemic, so it's easier to get volunteers or people infected with the pathogen, and at the same time, we are pumping in a lot of money to produce the vaccine. So we have unlimited funding, and also like Dr. Ashley said, the technology for the vaccine is already there. So they have done the due diligence. It's only a matter of time for them to take that technology and putting it into human trials or clinical trials. So that's what they have been waiting for. And they have done all the studies, all the impact, and it's quite different. Kalau you tengok, if you look at, sorry, if you look at things happening in vitro or in a control environment in a lab, research lab, when you translate it into real life, anything can go wrong, like Dr. Ashley said, because a lot of factors actually interplay, like your body makeup, your genetics, your immune response, your age, and all those things actually you should take that into account. So having a large pool of masses, a large pool of people, actually is also an advantage, because then we can see, oh, okay, it doesn't work in, it's not as effective in this group of people, but we can explain it with science. And if it works in this group of people, we can also explain it with science. So it's actually also an advantage to have large pool of people for the testing.
Okay, so it's actually a good thing right now that we have this happening, and we also have the technology. So we are sort of testing it as we roll it out, and they're bound to have effects. With any other medicine, you are also going to have effects. It's just not vaccines. So it's the same thing. Another very interesting question, and I think everyone has this in their minds, would be, this is second person. The vaccines we have now are presumably for the earlier variant of the virus. What about the newer, more aggressive variants? Dr. Jasmine, maybe you can comment on this first.
Yeah, I think this is a very common question that we get, and people are asking about the effectiveness of the vaccine that have been tested on the original strain. Now we are coming out, or we are seeing a lot of variants, and they're thinking, okay, if we are being infected with different variants, what's going to happen? So these pharmaceutical companies, they are not sitting on their laurels and just waiting for vaccine to be rolled out and see the impact. They're also doing trials on different variants. So Pfizer, BioNTech, Moderna, J&J, AZ, and Sinovac have tested on the UK variant, and they have seen similar efficacy by the vaccine on the variant. They have tested it on the South African variant. They also tested it on the P1 variant as well. And they see that although they have some reduce in the production of antibody levels, but it is still within the optimal level for you to get an optimum or effective immune response. So it's not too much difference in a sense. And also they have tested on the P1 variant, and they have seen, I think Pfizer and AstraZeneca have seen similar efficacy of this vaccine on that particular variant as well. So I don't think we should be that concerned, because as we go along, currently more research are coming up to be tested on different variants as well.
Dr. Ashley?
Yeah, I just want to add to whatever that Jasmine said. That's very valid, what she's mentioned, everything. The thing is, as I explained in the beginning, what the immune system is, when there's a foreign body enters the system, there's the pathology going on, and also the detection. Now, to recognize the foreign body, you need something very obvious for the immune system to recognize that is a foreign body. So most of these, if not all, the vaccine companies, they've actually targeted a very obvious molecule, which is the outside protein, the outside glycolipid, or what we call a mixture of macromolecules. So, and they call it spike protein. Basically, that's the thing, that they will recognize it. So, and this will definitely, unless Dr. Jasmine can agree with me or not, if the virus becomes very smart and changes the spike protein. But if it changes the spike protein, then it will become bad for itself, because it cannot enter the cells, because that's what it uses to actually enter our cells. So in a way, all these the vaccines will recognize that foreign particle first. So they will all recognize it, and then the immunity will take place. So in a way, we are safe in that sense. So I hope I answered that question, Mona.
Yes, very well. Although, the terms like spike proteins and all that, I've learned them before. I've forgotten completely. But yes,
It's the
I do.
outer layer of the virus. It's the outer layer of the
Okay.
virus. So we target that because that is very obvious, for obvious reason. You want to recognize that that's the part that is it's a virus. It's
So
what we call.
if I wanted to put it in a simpler, layman person way, this spike protein is the same with all the virus variants, correct?
In some of them they have shown a slight variation, but I think still the vaccine is effective.
Can recognize that.
Yes,
those,
can recognize it. That's the main
So
aim.
even with slight different, okay.
Yeah. And what the infectivity and all those things, that is something different. That is the reasons are different.
Yeah.
So now that the balance between the pathology and the detection. So if you want to detect it very fast, this is the best way. The best way to detect it and then try to neutralize it. That's why we need to get vaccinated.
And when we talk about different variants, and some people say, Pfizer and Moderna is more effective on these more aggressive variants, and Sinovac is more general because blah blah blah. So one of the questions as well, this is anonymous, I don't know who asked this. What are the main differences between the different vaccines, Pfizer, Sinovac, Moderna, AstraZeneca, etc.? Should we know the differences, or it doesn't matter?
Jasmine, can you?
There's huge differences in terms of the makeup of the vaccine itself, and also the efficacy of the vaccine itself, and also the doses of the vaccine itself, and also the storage of the vaccine itself, and where they are tested and what kind of variants they were tested on. It's quite interesting if you want to know about this. If you want to get into detail, but I think people are exposed to the different kinds of vaccine that we have right now because a lot of coverage on the vaccine. And I think this is a very interesting thing because previously the conversation was about, I tak nak ambil vaccine, I don't want to take these vaccines. It's a new technology, tak mau lah. But now the conversation has shifted what kind of vaccine I want. You're choosing the vaccine.
Yes.
Which is, to us, this is marvelous, okay, people are getting on board. They want to get vaccinated. They want to get the best kind of vaccine. But at the same time, they need to understand how these vaccines were tested, okay? And why there are so much differences in the vaccine. Because for Pfizer and Moderna, we know that it is nucleotide based. So it is mRNA. And then we have Sinovac, that is based on inactivated virus or weakened virus yang dilemahkan, like Sinopharm. And also we have AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson that is based on the common flu virus, which is adenovirus. But the thing that they need to understand and the public needs to understand is that this vaccine is effective in reducing the severity of getting COVID infection. So that's the thing that we need to understand right now, get it out of the way. People should know it's going to reduce the severity of getting the disease. It's not going to make you immortal, sorry. It's not going to make you immortal. You're not going to be kebal against COVID. And you may, in fact, be getting COVID even after vaccinated because like Dr. Ashley have said and what I've said in the beginning, immunity takes a while to develop. And say, let's say an example, you get the vaccine on day 1, and then unfortunately you went around and you get infected next couple of days. So your immunity is going to take about 12 to 14 days to actually develop to optimum threshold. So within that time, you can get COVID. But once you get it, your immunity have recognized it and can reduce the severity of your symptoms. So that is what people need to understand right now. Yeah. But if you want like people in the general masses of the public wants to know the type, definitely go to the right sources, read up on the information of the current vaccine that have been rolled out.
But in essence, all of them work against this current virus.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. In a nutshell, definitely.
Yeah, that's the most important thing, that we all need to know, that any vaccine will work. So if you can't choose, you can just take whatever that comes along the first time.
That's correct.
Dr. Ashley, did you want to add on to that?
Um, just one thing that the big difference everybody is talking is the RNA-based viral vaccine and the non-RNA. The traditional way of doing it, I think Jasmine has already explained, that's very nice and it is well worked out in the past, so we don't have any problem with that. Regarding the RNA one, that lots of conspiracy theories going around that saying that, oh, they've done something to it, that they'll tag you, they know what you're doing, and all kind of things, but to make them clear that it's an RNA based, RNA based meaning that the you send an RNA into your body and start making whatever necessary protein based on that, and that will enable the body to recognize that that is a virus. Now, and that RNA itself cannot do anything to your genes, your genome. You cannot do anything to your genes. It's not a DNA. If it's a DNA, then you can question there's something wrong. So it's an RNA based. So feel safe that nothing will happen to you genetically. And the thing is that there are many RNAs floating around in your body. So
Exactly.
it'll be just another RNA there, but it's making something useful for you. So
Yeah.
that's the understanding.
Yeah,
So,
true. And if we use that kind of logic, they say if mRNA is going to get into your body and then change you into something else or become a mutant, then they can also use the logic. If you get infected with RNA viruses, then you become this giant block of virus, right? Because
yes.
it's going to change your genetic. But that's not what happens. It can't go into the nucleus. And even if it does, all right, it can't integrate into our DNA because there's no
Exactly.
protein or enzyme that's going to make it happen. And at the same time, it's an RNA, so it needs to be changed into DNA, and you need a specific protein or enzyme to do that. And for you to place that specific DNA into your genetic material, you also need an enzyme to do that. So it's impossible.
I feel like I think a lot of people are just watching too much Hollywood, and that's why all these things are coming on. And if we're talking about like, okay, the viruses and the vaccines, the differences, right? And the current, well, the recent issue about the blood clots that are being caused by the AstraZeneca vaccine. So why is that happening actually?
I think this is probably Dr. Ashley's
Okay.
medical
Yeah,
background.
go ahead.
And I think that one is a very rare condition. Let me put it this way. And it's only they have actually done the study, and they've sort of like given an answer to that dilemma. No? Why some people are having this blood clot, and they say that people who have got severe allergic problem, if they have allergic reaction in the past for any kind of allergic reaction, let it be an antibiotic and any other allergic syndrome that they have. So these kind of people need to be very careful. That's why I think day one itself, before vaccination, they will keep on asking you this question: do you have any medical condition that you should want to reveal to us that may cause you some kind of a side effect due to this vaccine? And I think they've found out that the blood clot is actually caused by this allergic reaction. People who have got allergic reaction.
Oh, I see. And a lot of the cases of these blood clots are actually in the younger people, right?
Not exactly young. They're not very young, but they are general population. But people who have got some form of allergic problem.
Oh, I see. Okay. And so we just there's a few questions which are very, very scientific, like mRNA and all that. I think we have to read up on, you have to go back to your biology books and read up on that. But I'll touch on that later because I think some of them are quite interesting. But this one is moving a bit away from that. So one question is, anti-vaxxers apart, what is the holdup for the current vaccine rollout in Sarawak? I'm not sure if you can answer that, Dr. Ashley. Maybe you have an idea.
I told you yesterday, I guess those kind of questions are beyond our expertise.
Yeah.
and because they brought up this issue, I just want to highlight something. Go and look at My Sujatra, and when you go to the vaccine web page, not the app itself, you go to the web page, it will actually give you, scroll down and it will give you the data regarding how many people have actually registered and how many people have actually taken the vaccine or completed the vaccine. No, that data is a very useful data when we want to consider about herd immunity and so on. No, I think
Yeah.
my advocation this morning, my plea to everyone who is here, even in our YouTube or FB that we are screening, is to become a champion of vaccination program. No? To go and talk about this and try to convert those people who are not non-believers of vaccination program, because in order for you to reach herd immunity, you need at least a minimum of 60%, but 80% will be very good. 100% will be very, very good. Okay, now the thing is that currently we are only about 10 million people registered. Very sad to say that 10 million people are registered. And out of these 10 million, about 1.5 million have actually got the vaccination. That's even sad. That's very sad statistics, no? But what I'm trying to push here is that before we ask this kind of questions, we should all get registered, at least reach about 20, 25 million people who have registered. Then we can demand to the government saying that, hey, look here, we have already done our part. We have registered and we are waiting for the vaccination. What happened to the vaccines? So then we can actually demand, So that's my take on that. And the data doesn't show Sarawak how many people have registered, and I can't actually. I tried to look for it yesterday, but I couldn't do that. But only can see the general whoever is registered on My Sujatra. I think currently it's about 10 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the whole idea. I think all of us who are here, if we champion this program and go and talk to people and convince them that they should register, at least register, then the next step would be to ask the government, what are y'all doing? We have registered.
And I also like to interject and add something. If we read current news, you see now there are surge of cases in places where people have been vaccinated. We see now Taiwan cases are naik balik, and also other countries in Singapore even cases are surging. And so we need to understand, so there are several explanations why this is happening, obviously, because the herd immunity level or threshold has not been reached. Yeah, and it's not adequate. The amount of people being vaccinated is not adequate. And it could be due to the vaccination process. People have not received their vaccination. And there's also variants that escape the vaccine production that are probably dominant in certain areas. And they are spreading faster than people getting vaccinated. So, like I've said yesterday, it's like a race lah. Whether you get vaccinated first or variants is going to come up next to you. So you really need to get this fast and get everyone vaccinated, because we need to reach that herd immunity threshold before we get back to at least some normalcy in our life, where we can open up travel bubbles, we can go and travel other places as well.
Yeah. And just you mentioned just now, like the fact that people are not even registered for vaccination. What more to say to actually go for vaccination? That's quite alarming. And this brings me to the next question. In your opinion, do you think the speed at which news travel, the accessibility of news, both real and fake news, contribute to people's fears of getting vaccinated? So some of them don't even want to register because of this news, whether it's real news or fake news, but they're just getting it so quickly on their phones and on their laptops. So because the truth is being embellished or half hidden or not correctly reported. So what do you think of this? Dr. Jasmine, maybe your take on this.
Yeah, I think to a certain point, yes, media actually contributed to this fear of getting vaccines. But I think it's our everyone's moral duty to actually go and look up for facts and read up on the truth about vaccination, the truth about what's happening in this pandemic, and don't just rely on what you get, especially from WhatsApp, right? Like all these fake news or things that you read from very dubious sources. So it is our due diligence. We need to do our due diligence and really research the truth and back all these claims with facts. And I would like to say that if you get something, whatever sources, from WhatsApp or articles, if you don't know about it, don't spread it around. And if you want to know about it, please ask people who is an expert in that area. Because if you want legal advice, you will go to lawyers, right? If you want health advice, you go to doctors. Same thing, if you want to know about science, you go to researchers or scientists. So apply that to whatever articles or news that you get. That's my advice.
Yeah.
Dr. Ashley, anything?
I think we had this discussion yesterday. It reminded me that why I just smiled, I think people who are senior citizens, they have too much time in their hand, and too free, and they read a lot, and they spend on social network, and they start understanding certain things, and they accept that as a fact, and they start spreading it, and they talk about it, and that's when the what we call fear mongers, and they start to accept that, and that's when they say, or they decide, or they don't want to get vaccinated. And I think if you talk about people who are non-believers of vaccination, I think ask yourself first, were you vaccinated in your lifetime? Were you vaccinated in your lifetime? So what is that different now? Why are you worried about vaccination? Is this the technology that you're worried? Is it the short period of time for the production of vaccine you're worried? So if you ask those questions to yourself and then tell that I'm worried about this, can you get an explanation for that? So if you go out and look for that explanation, then I guess it will be you can become illuminated, and you can become the next champion of vaccination program in Malaysia. So you can go out and spread whatever news that is valid, and people can talk to you and understand. So please ask yourself whether you were vaccinated in your lifetime.
And if we're talking about getting, correct information, reaching out to people who know or who might know. So there's one question here. So where can a layperson read up on COVID-19 data, which is untainted by media sensationalization and overzealous WhatsApp warriors? So where can we get all this information? Is there like a library, where you can just get in one place? I know CDC is one place that you could actually read up on. Or the questioner is asking also scientific papers that you could read. Any ideas on this, Dr. Ashley, maybe?
I think the first thing that you told already, CDC is a good example. The first thing came to my mind when you mentioned that is NEJM, New England Journal of Medicine. I think they have got a fantastic archive.
Collection, resources.
They just started one on just COVID-19. And they have dedicated a particular portal just for COVID-19. But unfortunately, it is a lot of terminology. They use very advanced terminology. So that's why it will be very difficult for people. You want untainted, that will be the one. That's the thing. But then if you want something lay person can understand and all that, then you have to go to a credential web page. Mostly if it is got a GOV at the back, and if it is a very established institute.
Even our Ministry of Health page is quite informative. Our KKM have done a very good job in putting into very nice infographics. I quite like it, especially if you want to post on social media. People can easily understand all the information quite fast. So you can definitely go up to KKM or MOH, Gov.my.
Yeah. Okay, that's, yeah, so those are good. So it's just that a lot of these media or even websites, they put on names like, something, something news. So it looks like it's legit, but it's actually just a made up name and a made up platform. And then it comes out, the layout is all like a news article, So I think that's the part where it's tricking people into thinking this is actually legit news. And then they start spreading it all over. So I guess the media has a role to play in this as well. I'm sure there are going to be bad people wherever, but
My
that's our role.
biggest advice to everybody, Mona, is that when there's an individual coming personally, creating a video and start telling something bad about vaccination and all that, I feel like you need to really take it with a pinch of salt. Try to avoid those kind of individual videos, and also if you find something very drastic information on the social network, try to Google it first, because there are many debunking web pages
Yes.
which will actually tell you immediately that it is not true, and they have done their work to prove that it is not true, so that you can do that. So these are some of the little things that you can actually do before spreading any news.
Okay, I have, now I'm just going back to this, just now we were talking about RNA, mRNA and all that. So this is quite, it's a bit scientific, but it's quite interesting. In the vaccines, is the mRNA a naturally occurring substance from the virus, or is it artificially manufactured?
Sorry, what was the question?
In the vaccines, is the mRNA a naturally occurring substance from the virus, or is it artificially manufactured? So technically, you artificially manufactured the mRNA, according to this question, and then you are putting it into the vaccine and you injecting it to people. So that, I think that's the basis of the question.
Oh, so basically, when they want to make the mRNA, obviously they need to have a template, and that template is based on the virus. So, and you need to make in large amounts. So technically, it is artificial, but it is based on the virus itself. And obviously, when you put into mRNA, it's not stable when you put into the body. So you need other things as well to make it stable. So that is the lipid nanoparticles. And then you can inject it to people to get an effective vaccine. So it is based on a virus, on the COVID virus, SARS-CoV-2.
Yeah, that's very true, what Jasmine just said. Just to add something onto it, this is something called a trade secret for all the companies, and all vaccines will carry something called adjuvants. Now, and these are the things that make some kind of like supports or helps the vaccine to actually work very well. Now, most of the time is due to the adjuvant that you actually get this kind of reactions and so on, So, but they will definitely work out or what you call minimize the side effects as much as possible. So it is quite safe, and it is a virus-based mRNA.
Yeah.
And just further to that question, I'm guessing this is from the same person. How does the mRNA work at the cellular level? If you could explain that in a simple way. So I guess maybe the worry here is, would it create any changes in your own body in terms of how we are interacting with our cells?
Okay, so RNA, actually there are different types of RNAs. You have mRNAs, you have tRNAs, you have RNAs. So basically all these mRNA and tRNAs falls under one umbrella, which is RNA. So RNA is needed sort of like to copy whatever information from the DNA. This is cellular biology lah. So whatever information from the DNA, it needs to be translated into proteins. So DNA tak boleh buat macam tu. It can't go from DNA directly to protein. So you need a middleman. So think of RNA ni like a middle person. Yeah, a middleman. So whatever that DNA is carrying, whatever information or blueprints DNA is carrying, so it gets transcribed or transferred to RNA. And then this RNA is going to be transcribed or changed into mRNA. So mRNA is messenger RNA. So it works as a messenger. And messenger RNA will then move to a machinery in our body or in our cells called organelle. Now the biology 101. This organelle called ribosome, and ribosome can only read mRNA. It will not read anything else. It can only read mRNA. So you need mRNA to be transcribed from the DNA to ribosome, and ribosome can then churn out proteins. So in the case of vaccine, so let's tie it back to what we are talking about. So in the case of vaccine, the ribosome in our body, once they get information from the mRNA vaccine, they will then churn out the spike protein. And this protein will then act as antigens. It will be portrayed on the cells. It will act as antigens, and then all our surveillance cells, which are the immune cells, we then recognize these antigens and then start producing specific antibodies against the spike proteins. So then you get a buildup of immune defense when you get infected with coronavirus that have that spike protein protrusion, and it gets detected in the body.
Okay, that's simple enough for us laypersons
Hopefully.
to understand. Yeah, very simple.
Molecular biology 101.
101, yeah. So we can graduate to the next one, I hope, with this.
Mona, there's an important, I just bumped into one of the questions that was asked. I think it was regarding allergic problem.
Yes, okay.
And and they say that I have a history of anaphylaxis. So can I have the jab? As when I called the clinic on the date of vaccine, they said, no, I can't take the vaccine. That's very true. Huh? Very true. If they feel like if you've got a serious problem of allergic problem, then therefore you're not encouraged to take it at the moment, because we don't have enough data to support. Now we can then ask which brand of vaccine can actually minimize, then you can actually see, then we later wait. But that person have done all the her duty by saying that I'm going to get vaccinated. That's good enough, no? But now the awareness is people who have got this underlying problem, they can also come forward and say that I have this problem. So they can be asked to take some other brands which don't cause a severe reaction to the vaccination.
And also, I guess this the other question is also the same, but I'm just going to ask just in case it's not. Should someone with severe anaphylactic shock to bee stings get vaccinated? Also same. Okay. How about severe sinus issues? I don't think that's the same.
Yeah, I don't think sinus issue. That one you need a medical doctor to actually answer. But anaphylactic shock, yes, it's more of an allergic response, So therefore, that comes together with the other case earlier.
And I might as well just go on to the next question as well. For patients with diabetic and high blood pressure, I think these are all, I think the doctors will tell them whether or not they should get or not, right?
Yeah, these are actually the high risk group that needs to get vaccinated, actually.
Oh, okay. But the doctors will advise how and
advice
when
necessary. Like what Jasmine earlier said, people who have got this kind of problem, they will have observation. The procedure is such, when you walk into the centers for vaccination, after registering, you go into table after table. They will actually inform you all these things, whether you have any underlying problem and all that. Then once you actually taken the vaccine, then you are compulsory. This is compulsory. You have to go and sit in a place where you will be observed for 15 minutes.
Like you did, right, Doctor?
Yeah, that's right. 15 minutes you'll be observed. But people who have more complications, they are observed even further, 30 minutes. 30 minutes, they just have to sit there. So why do they do that? Because they have paramedics already prepared for some kind of emergency. So if something were to happen, it will happen within that time frame. Then only they will release you.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe Dr. Ashley, we did go into this because all the questions were very, very interesting and they kept coming. Maybe you want to talk a bit about your experience being vaccinated and how it was like.
I guess I had the Pfizer and it was a 2-dose. I had mine. The first was on 31st of March, and then followed by 3 weeks later, the second dose. If I were to compare the first dose and the second dose was more eventful, I would say. eventful, meaning things happen, things happen.
Mm.
But the first dose was very mild. I had all the symptoms, classic symptoms, myalgia, pain at the site of injection, and I felt feverish on the first dose,
Mm.
but my body temperature didn't react to it. I
Mm.
felt feverish, that's all. And body ache was there, definitely. And these are the symptoms that you can actually, I think Jasmine mentioned this earlier. My Jatra has got a form for you to fill up the symptoms. So I did that. No, I did that. I filled up what are the symptoms that I had actually had. So once you done that, so that was the first day. Yeah? First day was very mild, but I had that thing. By the third day, everything came normal. I
Mm.
had I was back to normal. I didn't have anything. Second day, I had a slight headache, but the best thing I would advise everyone is sleep.
Mm.
Sleep, and your body will start
Rest.
repairing, doing the maintenance. Everything will be done. So sleeping is the best way of recovering from it. Now,
Mm.
the second dose, after the second dose, this was very eventful. No, the pain started very fast,
Mm.
and the site of injection was very tender. I if I touch it and I can feel the pain itself.
Mm.
So and the second day is when everything started, like the morning. Second day morning, I had my vaccination mid afternoon in somewhere about 1 or 2 o'clock. And by the second day, uh, the fever was very prominent. It reached up to about 38 degrees, 38 point something. I was just monitoring the fever. As the fever was going up, I told myself I will only. Uh, the thing is that don't jump into taking Panadol.
Mm.
Try not to take Panadol, and until you cannot take the symptoms anymore, then only you take your
Mm.
Panadol. Maybe the best way to monitor is the temperature. The
Mm.
temperature, if the temperature goes up to about 38, 39, then I think you might as well start taking the temperature paracetamol or Panadol. No? Why do I say that? Is that there are two school of thought. One they say that the fever actually is good for priming your immunity. That means it's working and everything is starting to react to it and all that. If you stop the fever immediately, then there might be some disruption in that reaction. So that's
Mm.
why there's a school of thought saying that you shouldn't immediately when you see that our normal body temperature is about 37, 36.9. So if you think that 37.5 already you start taking, then it defeats the purpose of vaccination.
Mm.
So try to bear with it, and then maybe. So I took it when I really couldn't stand it. The body ache was too much, and the temperature was about 38 point something, no. And that's when I told myself I take two Panadol. And once the moment I took the Panadol, 1 hour later, everything came
Mm.
better. I felt really normal. And the whole day, I just felt the body ache only later, about after 6 hours. But I stopped myself from taking any more Panadols. And then the next day, after sleeping, everything came normal. So the third day, everything was back to normal.
Mm.
That was my chronicle of those taking that vaccination.
I think a lot of people just want a quick fix, and the minute they feel, unwell, they just pop the Panadol. And perhaps also those people at the vaccination center, they actually, my dad went yesterday, thank God. And he was advised by them, if you feel, slight fever or headache, you can eat Panadol. So they just said
Mm.
that they didn't say that you should just wait it out. But my
Actually,
dad being
I
anti
didn't want
Panadol
to
as well.
advocate, Mona. I
Yeah.
didn't want to advocate that part. There's two school of thoughts about this. They say that
Mm.
if you talk to a medical doctor, maybe he will have an opinion regarding this. But some of them say that you shouldn't immediately take the
Yeah.
Panadol. But some say it doesn't matter. You can take the Panadol. Even when little children when they go for doctor for their jab after vaccination, no, or for various vaccination, the doctor will always advise if there's a fever, take Panadol.
Mm.
That's the advice that they give you. But there are also another school of thought saying that you shouldn't take Panadol immediately.
Mm.
So
I'm
monitoring the temperature is the best way of doing it.
Yeah. And if we're talking about the observation just now, you mentioned that, you know, you all have to sit at one place, you know, like for 30 minutes. My dad had to do that as well. And then earlier on, I think Dr. Jasmine mentioned about post-vaccination surveillance for 3 years that they will observe. But is that done in Sarawak? Do they actually follow up with all of us even, you know, after 3 years?
At the observation desk, this is the final word they will tell you. After you go back home, if you have any problem, please come to the nearest clinic to report. That's what they will tell. And officially, I think My Sejahtera, although they are monitoring us, I don't know in what way they are monitoring, but everybody is given a digital certificate that they have actually taken vaccination. So I guess if I were to walk into any of these centers and complain of something, then they will actually monitor the digital certificate, I guess. I think that's how they monitor, Dr. Jasmine. Probably that would be one of the ways how they actually keep track of people who have actually had has been vaccinated.
Yeah. And I would like to answer one of the question about when the vaccine will be made available for kids. So currently, the only vaccine that is approved for kids but there's an age range between 12 to 17 is Pfizer. I think one vaccine company, Covaxin, only started clinical trial on kids for age 2 and 18. So we're still waiting for that data, but Pfizer has been approved for children 12 age and older. But definitely you need consent from adult before you sign up for the vaccination.
Okay.
But now currently we are in short supply of Pfizer. So probably kids are not the priority right now under the National Immunization Plan. We still want to vaccinate the high-risk group, the older people first, and then those above 18, then the kids or the young adults.
And another question here, this is going back to herd immunity. This is from Dr. John Chan, your best friend, Dr. Ashley. Herd immunity reduces the chances of people infecting one another. Vaccinated individuals may still get infected and transmit to others, right? So the issue is with those who have not been vaccinated, who may get severe symptoms, and these people will clog up our hospitals, clinics. Is this correct?
Yeah, I think that's what we earlier discussed about the pathology and detection. No? People who have not been vaccinated, they will manifest the disease much quicker. And then people who are vaccinated, although they will develop the disease symptoms, but at the background, the primed immune system is trying to curb the problem. Although the people are having the symptoms, the system is trying to neutralize whatever the virus is. On the other hand, people who are not vaccinated, the detection and the innate immune system is trying to detect it and then trying to neutralize it. But at the same time, the pathology is happening. So when the pathology is happening, therefore you will see the manifestation of the disease much faster. So in a way, yeah, I think John, you're right, John, if you're watching it.
Okay, and another interesting question, I think we were talking about the vaccines and the doses. If vaccinated for second dose, what is the side effect? I'm thinking maybe if, I'm not sure if the person, I think Daniel is the person asking from YouTube, do you mean as in the second dose of the vaccine, or if, for example, if we get Sinovac and later on we decide we want to get a Pfizer, can you do that, you know, second time being vaccinated with another one? Is that even necessary?
I don't think it's recommended. Dr. Jasmine, what's your take on that?
So currently, there's a thing, what we call mix and match vaccine trial that is ongoing right now in Spain, not ongoing, ongoing like in Spain and also in UK. So what they are looking at is mixing two different vaccines, Pfizer and also AstraZeneca. So why they are doing this is because of the limited supply of vaccines. And also, we just want to simplify the vaccination process, right? We have one, why don't we have one and then another one in excess, why don't we just use it? So in Spain, CombiVac actually have looked into mixing and matching COVID vaccine. So one group, I think about 600 candidates have received the AstraZeneca vaccine. And after 2 months, they give this same candidates, about 400 people, the Pfizer vaccine. And they actually saw a large increase in immune response. So there's a potent immune response in these 400 people. So this is actually good news to us, because now we know that you can actually mix this vaccine. And there's actually an immunological basis behind this, why this is happening, because AstraZeneca is actually based on the common cold virus, which is adenovirus. So our body is have been introduced to this virus before. We have met this virus quite a number of times, only that we don't get severe disease from it. But because Pfizer is based on mRNA, a newer technology, and also much more potent, so that's why you get this jump of immune response. And when they compare it to those who didn't get the second booster shots from Pfizer, this group of people who did not get the second dose from Pfizer actually don't have that kind of booster potent immune response. However, we need to be careful because this has only been reported in the media. It has not been peer reviewed yet. And also the sample size is quite small. It's only 600 people. So we need to do more testing and gather more data. But what it entails is that it simplifies the immunization strategy, and also is good for countries with fluctuating supply of vaccine. And same thing, not just in Spain, UK, ComCov trial also did this combination, mix and match. They also saw higher rates of immune response in those getting mixed match vaccine.
So I guess this is also the same for people here. There's been a lot of cases where they went for the first jab and then they didn't turn up for the second jab. So what would that be? How would that impact them if we did only the first jab and we didn't go? This is the same vaccine, it's not the mix and match.
Yeah, so you only get partial protection, and there's a risk that when you get introduced, when you get infected with COVID, you might get a severe case of the disease. But in a way, you are still protected, but you're only partially protected. So it's best that you get the full dose of the vaccine. That's the best case scenario.
Okay. There's one question. This is a pretty obvious answer, but I would still want to ask this. It's from Judith Anthony on YouTube, and she's asking Dr. Ashley, my mom is 87 years old, and is it necessary for her to be vaccinated?
I think the older senior citizens basically are in the risk group, and they need to be vaccinated. I think hopefully she has registered the mother, and I think it definitely need to be vaccinated.
And
although, don't worry about the age is 87 or 90, but need to be vaccinated. I'm sure Dr. Mahathir has already been vaccinated.
Yes, he has. and also we have one of our Rotary Club members. He's 92, 93.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and he has been vaccinated, and he's all well so far. Yep. Another question. I think we answered it a bit, but I'm just going to read it out. Doctor, I am a heart patient with a stent, and I'm also diabetic. Would I have a negative effect after vaccination?
No. The person should go for the vaccination. There are a lot of people who have already done this, and there's no problem. Maybe if the person wants to get a peace of mind, please talk to their physician or a GP. Because when she said that I think she's Sarah, is it? I'm not sure exactly.
No, we don't know who. It was anonymously asked.
Okay, and that person whether diabetic, what extent the diabetic disease is. We need to know that. So I guess only the doctor will be able to advise. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we've gone way beyond 1 hour, but there's one last question, and I think this is quite a good one from Moose from YouTube. Do we foresee vaccination being made mandatory or as a law, or some form of incentive provided to promote vaccine adoption?
Like in the US,
Yeah.
where you get donuts when you get vaccinated. It's a very interesting question, and a lot of people have asked this. Should we make a vaccination compulsory? For me, because we don't have, because there's a lot of factors, we can't do it now because we don't have the supply of vaccine, enough supply for vaccine for everyone to make it mandatory. But there's also an EU European funded project that was done prior to COVID-19 on epidemics and pandemics. They have found that even if we make vaccination mandatory, we will not increase vaccine uptake. There will always have people who are against vaccine, and they don't usually reach better coverage than people who than countries who actually make vaccination mandatory. And I'm a bit against this because you're just going to push people away from vaccination. What I would say is we need to broaden our reach to educate people about vaccination so that they can accept it as wholeheartedly rather than being forced down their throat and not wanting to do it on their own will. In terms of incentive, I think that's a good idea actually, to give people incentive when they get vaccination. Maybe in terms of voucher or something.
Shopping voucher maybe would be good for ladies.
My question would be, what is the incentive they want?
Yeah, different people, different incentive,
what
right?
is the incentive?
Yeah.
But just to add on to this discussion that the person has actually asked, maybe we should try to invoke or implore the good side of everyone. Yesterday, I highlighted in one of my social media group and said that it is a sad day because 10,000 people in Kelantan did not turn up for their appointment.
Yep.
And that was a very sad note. Here are people who want to get vaccinated, and here are people who are given the opportunity and they refuse to take it. So that's one point. So when I raised this, another pharmacist actually brought up another issue in her own group. One ex, I wouldn't say ex, still going on, cancer patient. This cancer patient actually wrote in that group, my friend's group, and tried to debate with another person who was basically a non-believer of vaccination. So she told the person off by saying that, I am a cancer patient and I'm doing chemotherapy. So these kind of people, they fall under the category of immunocompromised people. And they are very, very high risk of getting some serious problem due to this pandemic. So the person asked him that, think of me and people like me who are there, and cancer is a big problem. And there are so many of us on chemotherapy. So if you have to consider us before you actually think about yourself also. We want to be safe. So if we can make people aware and try to get into their heart to say that, go and do it. If it's not for you, for your children, your family, your immediate friends, or someone who you might know. And that is the reason why vaccination is important. And we need to create the awareness.
Okay, I know I said that was the last question, but one final one. Should we go on a full lockdown?
I'm for it. I'm for it. I think we discussed this quite a number of times. I know it's weighing between the economic needs and health needs, no? And I think priority should be given to the health. And the thing is that if we always think about economy is the number one thing, we would not have people later on to actually run the economy that we are so much trying to protect, you know.
Yep.
So I guess health should be given a big priority here. Maybe we try to flatten the curve and then try to work from there and try to bring it down. Our aim is to flatten the curve, like at least, if not coming down, try to flatten the curve.
Yep. And actually, one of our groups, our tourism groups, I wouldn't mention which association, they actually have gone to the media and they have asked for a full lockdown. And they know that a full lockdown will affect their business, but only for that duration. But after that, it will definitely help them. So in the long term, for us businesses, it's actually better for us to just suffer right now during a full lockdown. And then later on, then we can go back to some sort of normal situation. And I was reading up on the flu pandemic, the Spanish flu pandemic. Those countries that actually reacted faster and more severely, like immediate lockdown, you know, and very strict lockdowns, they actually perform better after or even right after the pandemic in terms of economy. So I think those are the things that we should be looking at instead of now whether or not, you know, we can conduct business, because you can't if you do it halfway like this, right? Dr. Jasmine, what's your take on this?
I totally agree, but on top of that, I'd like to add that if we are going to do this whole lockdown like what we did in MCO 1.0, we need to communicate better on why we are doing this lockdown, and you need the public buy-in. When we are doing any public health interventions or measures, there's no point, you know, saying all these. You're still going, you're putting all these intervention and measures, but you're not explaining to the public why you are doing this. You're going to get non-compliancy from the population, from the citizen. So you really need to put your foot down. Hey, okay, let's do a town hall. We need to do a lot of town halls, you know, gather people. Okay, what questions you have, come bombard me with questions. We're going to answer it once and for all, so that people will understand why we are doing this. We are, like Dr. Ashley said, we are flattening the curve. We are trying to help the healthcare system from actually breaking down and suffering the consequences in the long run. So we want to avoid that.
Okay. Yeah, I know a lot of some businesses might go against me for saying this, but I'm also for the lockdown. Yeah. So okay. So we've come to the end of the show. We've exceeded our time, and yeah. But I think we've got quite a lot of interesting questions, and a lot of people were actually just wanting to know more about the vaccination and the effects that it would have. At the end of the day, this is our body, and we're going to be living with it, you know, our whole life. So we need to know what we're going to be injecting into our bodies, right? Yep. Okay, so that's it. And thanks everyone for joining. Thank you to Dr. Ashley and Dr. Jasmine for joining us today and for sharing your information, your experiences with this. And thank you to the audience as well for your questions. And I hope we've answered them all. But if you do have any burning questions that you just don't know where to direct, you can write to us on our Facebook page, or you can write to us at info@placeborneo.com, and we can direct it to the doctors if they're free enough to answer your question. In case you don't have anywhere else that you want to ask your questions. Yep. So until the next Tuesday Talk Live, you guys have a good day ahead. Take care and stay safe. Stay at home if you don't have to be out. And all the best. Thank you, doctors.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yep. Thank you very much for having us.
No worries. All right. See you. Bye.
Bye.